I never thought I'd be sitting here, writing this kind of story, but here we are. It's like my life suddenly turned into some twisted soap opera, and I'm the only one not in on the joke. I'll start from the beginning because maybe if I lay out everything clear, it'll make some kind of sense, though honestly, I doubt it. My wife, Sarah, and I have been together for almost 4 years. We met in college, shared everything, dreams, fears, even the stupid little daily routines that somehow made life worth living. She was smart, funny, beautiful in a quiet way, and I trusted her completely. Or so I thought. We got engaged last year, just a small affair with close friends, and everything seemed perfect. Until I found out the truth, and suddenly I wasn't sure I ever knew her at all. It started a few weeks ago. I was going through her phone, something I normally wouldn't do, but lately I'd felt a strange distance, like she was hiding something. She'd been working late more often, her texts seemed more guarded, and I couldn't shake this gnawing suspicion. So one night I decided to check. I know it's not exactly a proud moment, but I needed to know. That's when I found the messages. At first, nothing out of the ordinary, just her usual chatter with friends, jokes, plans. But then I saw the name. Mark. A friend from her yoga class. Something didn't sit right. I opened the chat and everything changed. The texts were flirtatious, suggestive even, not just friendly banter. There were photos, 2 snapshots of her lying in bed, topless, her hair spread across the pillow, her lips curled into a mischievous smile. The caption was simple, "Wish you were here." My stomach clenched so tight I thought I'd throw up. I stared at the screen, my mind trying to process what I was seeing. This wasn't a drunken mistake or some harmless joke. This was real. She was cheating on me right before our wedding. How could she? I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. Everything I believed in, every promise, every story I told myself about us was a lie. I didn't sleep that night. I sat up, staring at her phone, and every muscle in my body was tight with rage and betrayal. The worst part, she swore she was drunk that night. Said she didn't remember much, that she was a fool and it was a one-time mistake. But those texts, that photos, how could she claim ignorance? I knew she was lying. Her words, her excuses, they felt hollow, like a bad cover-up. I could hear her voice in my head, pleading, crying, begging me to understand. But how could I? I had all the proof I needed. I felt my fists clench so hard my palms itched with the sting. I'd never felt this kind of fury before, pure, unfiltered rage twisting inside my chest like a snake ready to strike. I knew I couldn't just let this go. I had to do something. I had to make her pay for the betrayal, for lying to me, for making me doubt everything. That's when my plan started to take shape, cold, calculated, and cruel enough to hit her where it would hurt most. I spent days planning, watching her routine, gathering evidence, mapping out what I'd do. All the while she kept pleading, begging for forgiveness, crying every time I looked her way. But I couldn't look at her without seeing the woman I thought I knew, the woman I trusted. Now that trust was shattered. I couldn't live with her pretending everything was fine, pretending she didn't cheat, pretending she loved me. And I'll tell you this, if she thought her drunken confession would save her, she was dead wrong. I wasn't about to let her walk away that easily. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she did. I wanted her to understand that betrayal isn't just a mistake, it's a choice. And I was about to show her what that choice cost her. So I sat there in the dark with her phone in my hand and that heavy feeling in my chest, knowing one thing for certain, this was only the beginning. I had a plan and I was going to see it through no matter what. I just needed the right moment, the perfect opportunity to make her regret ever crossing that line. The game was on now, and I was ready to play it to the bitter end. The next few days were a blur of planning and seething. I kept my cool outwardly, but inside I was boiling. Every time I saw her, I felt like I was walking on a wire, balancing between rage and disbelief. It was like I'd been hit with 1,000 tiny needles stabbing into me. Each thought of her with Mark made my stomach turn. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't breathe without that gnawing feeling that everything I believed in was a lie. I started noticing little things, her phone buzzing constantly in her pocket, her hurried glances when she thought I wasn't looking, the way she brushed her hair nervously when I entered the room. I knew she was hiding something, and that only made my resolve grow stronger. But I needed to be careful. She was manipulative when she wanted to be, and I didn't want to give her any reason to suspect me. One night I decided to confront her directly. I couldn't keep pretending I hadn't seen the messages. It was eating me alive. I sat her down on the couch, the silence thick and heavy. She was chewing her lip, eyes darting around nervously. I could see the guilt behind her eyes, but she was good at hiding it, at least for now. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. "You lied to me," I said bluntly, "about the night you were drunk. About everything." Her face paled and she looked down at her hands. "I swear I didn't mean for it to happen," she whispered. "It was a mistake. I was drunk. I didn't remember much." I cut her off. "Then how do you explain these?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots of her texts and photos. Her eyes widened, and for a moment she looked genuinely stunned. She tried to reach for the phone, her voice trembling. "Please, I was drunk." "I didn't think—" "Stop," I said sharply. "You don't get to play the innocent here. You lied, you cheated, and you're trying to spin it like some drunken slip-up, like I'm supposed to believe it was just some mistake." Her shoulders shook with silent tears. She looked so vulnerable, so broken. I almost felt a pang of guilt, but then I remembered how betrayed I felt, and that swallowed any ounce of remorse I might have had. "I don't know what else to say," she whispered. "I was stupid. I was drunk. I swear I was going to tell you everything." "Yeah, right," I snapped. "That's what they all say, but I saw the pictures, Sarah, the proof. That's not something you forget when you're drunk. That's who you are when you think no one's watching." She looked like she wanted to crawl into a hole. "Please," she begged, "can't we just forget it? I love you. I made a mistake, but I want to fix this." "No," I said coldly. "You don't get to fix this. Not after what I've seen. Not after what I know." She burst into tears, and I felt my stomach churn with mixed feelings: anger, disgust, disappointment. I didn't want to hurt her, but I also couldn't keep pretending this was just some accident. My mind spun with plans, each more ruthless than the last, but I held onto my resolve. I needed her to understand she'd crossed a line, and I wouldn't let her get away with it. The night ended with silence, broken only by her muffled sobs. I left the room, feeling hollow, like I'd just been punched in the gut again and again. I knew I had to stay calm, keep my head clear. The next step was crucial. I needed to turn her own lies against her, make her realize she was trapped, and then, when the moment was right, execute my plan. I spent that night awake, staring at the ceiling, imagining how I'd set everything in motion. The pieces were falling into place, and I knew I had to act fast. The truth was out, but now I had to make sure she paid in a way she wouldn't forget. I had to make her see the damage she'd done, and that I was done forgiving. The days that followed were like walking on thin ice. I kept my cool outwardly, but inside I was boiling. Every glance at her was a reminder of what I'd uncovered, and every moment apart felt like a countdown to the inevitable. I knew I couldn't just let this go. I had to make her feel the weight of her betrayal, and I had a plan brewing, sharp and cold. One evening, I decided to create a scene, a fake argument, something to push her into revealing her true colors. I wanted her to slip up, to start thinking she had won, but really I was just setting the stage for what was coming. We were in the living room, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. I kept my voice steady, but my heart was pounding. "You don't get to just apologize and pretend everything's fine," I said, voice low but controlled. "This isn't some mistake I can just brush off. You lied to me, Sarah, you cheated on me, and I don't think I can ever trust you again." She looked down, trembling. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I was stupid, drunk, I swear." "Stop," I cut her off. "You're a liar. You've been lying the whole time. I saw the messages, the photos. Don't try to tell me it was a mistake, because I know better." Her eyes welled up and she reached for my hand. "Please, I love you. I messed up, but I want to fix this. I'll do anything, anything," I scoffed. "Really? Because I don't think so. You think a sorry and some tears will fix what you did?" She looked like she wanted to say more, but her voice caught in her throat. That's when I saw her hesitation, her eyes darting away. It was exactly what I needed. I took a deep breath, forcing my voice to stay calm. "You know what's coming next. I've made up my mind. I've got a plan, Sarah. A really good one. It's going to hurt you more than you think, and I want you to feel what betrayal really costs." Her face twisted with a mixture of fear and confusion. "What are you talking about? What plan?" I stepped closer, feeling the adrenaline surge. "You're going to regret this so badly, you'll never forget it." But first I need to be sure you understand what you did, that you realize you can't just brush this off. She looked at me, her eyes watering, trembling. Please don't do this, I'll do anything, just tell me what you want. I took a step back, crossing my arms. You'll find out soon enough, but here's a hint, you're not going anywhere, not until I say so, and after I'm done you'll wish you never crossed me. That night I set my plan into motion. I knew she'd be expecting some big confrontation, maybe tears or pleading. Instead, I wanted to hit her where it hurt most, with silence, then with the perfect reveal. I'd planned every detail carefully, from setting up the time to ensuring she'd be alone when she discovered what I'd done. Before I went to bed, I took a deep breath and stared at her phone. I had already made copies of everything, screenshots, photos, even saved the chat logs, all neatly organized. I knew exactly how I was going to use it. That was what made my plan so cold. I wasn't just exposing her, I was making her pay in her own game. The next morning I woke early, heart pounding with a strange mix of anticipation and dread. Today was the day I'd finally turn her world upside down. I slipped her phone into an envelope, along with a note that simply read, "You think it was all a mistake. Let's see what you say when everything's exposed." I left the envelope on her pillow, then went to work, my mind racing. I knew she'd find it before she left for her day. I didn't want to give her time to think or make a move. I wanted her to wake up to the harsh reality that her secrets were no longer hidden. By mid-morning, I got a text from her, just a short message. "What is this?" I didn't reply. Instead, I waited, knowing that her reaction was only the beginning. Soon, she'd realize that her lies had come back to haunt her and that I wasn't going to play nice anymore. As I sat at my desk, I felt the cold satisfaction creeping in. I'd laid my trap, and now it was only a matter of time before she'd understand. Her betrayal had set off a chain of events she'd have no control over. The game was on, and I was ready to see it through. By late afternoon, I could feel the tension in my chest tighten even more. I kept looking at my phone, waiting for her to call, text, or make some move. I knew she was probably panicking, trying to figure out what I'd done or what I was planning. Honestly, it didn't matter. I'd set the wheels in motion, and now it was her turn to face the consequences. I went home early that day, walking through the door with a sense of calm that I didn't quite feel. Inside, the air was thick with anticipation. I knew she'd find the note and the envelope on her pillow. I wanted her to find it when she was alone, without anyone around to distract her. I knew the moment she opened it, her world would start unraveling. When she saw the envelope and the note, her face changed instantly. Her eyes went wide, her cheeks flushed with shock. She hesitated, then slowly opened the envelope, pulling out the contents inside. Her breath hitched as she looked at the screenshots and photos, proof of her betrayal laid bare. I watched her face twist with disbelief, then slowly morph into terror. She looked up at me, her voice trembling. "What is this? How did you get this?" I kept my expression neutral, though inside I was feeling more alive than I had in days. "That's what you wanted, right? To see what I knew, to see how much I knew." Her hands shook as she stared at the screen. "This can't be real, it's just photos. I was drunk, I said things I didn't mean." "Yeah, you said that," I interrupted. "But I don't buy it. That's not the kind of thing you do when you're drunk. That's who you are when you think no one's watching. And you thought you could get away with it, didn't you?" She sank onto the couch, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't want to lose you. I was stupid, I swear. I didn't know what I was doing. Please, just what?" I cut her off again, voice sharper now. "Just forgive you. That's not how this works. You lied, you cheated, you betrayed everything we had, and I'm not going to pretend I can just forget it." Her shoulders shook as she cried harder. "I love you. I don't want to lose you. I'll do anything." I stepped closer, feeling the cold resolve settle in my chest. "Anything? You really think you can fix this with a sorry and tears? Nah, it's going to take more than that." She looked up at me, desperate, her face streaked with tears. "Please don't do this. I'll leave if that's what you want. I'll go anywhere, just don't end us over this." That was the moment I knew I'd caught her off guard. She was trying to manipulate me, but I'd already made up my mind. I'd played it smart, let her think she still had some control, but I was ready to make her pay. "You want to leave?" I said softly but with a deadly edge. "Then you better be prepared to leave everything behind, because what I'm about to do will make sure you never forget this betrayal. You think your tears can undo what you've done? "Sorry, sweetheart, but I don't think so." Her face crumpled, eyes pleading. "Please, just give me a chance to explain. Explain." I interrupted again, voice rising slightly. "You already explained everything I needed to know. You're a liar, Sarah, and I don't want to be with someone who thinks it's okay to cheat, to lie, to destroy what we built." I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small package I'd prepared earlier. It was a simple, unassuming box, nothing flashy, just enough to make her wonder. I placed it on the table in front of her and looked her in the eyes. "Here's your last gift. You're going to take everything you've done and you're going to leave. You're not to contact me again, not until I say so." Her hands trembled as she reached for it, suspicion flickering in her eyes. "What's in it?" "Open it," I said, voice firm, "and then you'll understand what's coming next." She hesitated, then slowly peeled back the wrapping. Inside was a small USB drive and a note attached. The note read, "Every lie, every betrayal recorded. I kept copies of everything. If you try to come back or lie again, I'll make sure everyone knows." Her eyes widened in horror. "You recorded everything?" "Yep," I said coldly. "Thought you might want to remember that when you think about crossing me again. You played your hand and now it's time to walk away, for good." She stared at the USB, then at me, speechless. Her face drained of all color. I had her cornered and I could feel the power shift. "I'll go," she whispered, voice barely audible, "but this isn't over." "Oh, I think it is," I said, turning away. "You're done, Sarah. It's over. Don't come back." As she grabbed her coat and left without another word, I couldn't help but feel a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd done what I set out to do. Now all that was left was what came next. But I knew one thing: I would never trust her again. Not after this. And honestly, that realization felt a hell of a lot better than I ever expected. The house was dead silent after she left. The air felt heavy, thick with the aftermath of what I'd just done. I stood there for a moment, staring at the door she had just walked out of, feeling a strange sense of clarity mixed with an odd emptiness. A part of me expected some kind of emotional breakdown, a scene of crying or pleading, but there was nothing, just cold silence. I sat down on the sofa, clutching the USB drive in my hand. That little device was my insurance, my proof that I'd caught her red-handed. I knew she would try something. Maybe lie, maybe deny, maybe come back with some story to spin everything around. But I wasn't going to let her. I thought about how I got here. The endless moments of doubt, the gut feeling that something was off, and the sickening discovery of her betrayal. Every detail now replayed in my mind: the texts, the photos, her trembling voice when she begged for forgiveness. I'd given her enough rope. It was time to hang her with it. I decided I needed to move quickly, not just to protect myself, but to make sure she knew I wasn't messing around. First, I transferred everything from the USB to my secure cloud storage. I wanted to keep copies hidden just in case. Then I drafted a simple message for her: "You chose your path. Now it's time you face the consequences." I knew she'd see it once she tried to contact me, or if she tried to spin her way back into my life. As I sat there, my stomach twisted with a mix of adrenaline and a strange, cold satisfaction. I'd finally taken control of the situation. No more doubts, no more lies. I'd done what needed to be done. But deep down, I also knew this wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming what was left of my dignity. A thought crossed my mind. What if she tried to come back? What if she begged or pleaded or even lied again? I knew her. She was manipulative, convincing herself she could wiggle out of this mess like she always did. But I wasn't going to fall for it. I'd made my choice, and I was prepared for whatever she threw at me next. I grabbed my phone and started drafting a legal document, just a simple one, stating that I was ending the relationship immediately, that any contact from her was considered harassment, and that I'd take legal action if necessary. I wanted to be clear and firm. This wasn't some emotional upheaval. It was a decisive act of self-preservation. As I hit send, my mind drifted to all the moments leading up to this. The stolen glances, the late-night doubts, the feeling that something was always just slightly off. It all culminated in this moment: her leaving my house, her secrets exposed, and me finally taking back control. I poured myself a glass of water and took a long drink. My hands were steady now, but I could feel the rising tide of emotion beneath my skin. It was a strange mix: relief, anger, sadness, and a weird sense of liberation. I'd made a choice that couldn't be undone. She was gone and I had to move forward. But I knew this wouldn't be the end. I'd be watching, waiting. And when I was ready, I'd figure out my next move. For now, I'd just focus on cleaning up the mess, on rebuilding what I could. I'd lost her, yes, but I'd gained something too: clarity. Looking back, I realized one thing: trust once shattered is impossible to rebuild. And trying to do so only wastes your time and your heart. Sometimes revenge isn't about hurting someone else. It's about reclaiming your own peace. And I was finally doing that. The days that followed felt strange, like I was walking in a fog trying to piece everything back together. The house was eerily quiet, every corner echoing with memories of what was lost. I kept the USB tightly tucked away, knowing I had everything I needed to prove what had happened, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. The truth was out and I didn't have to hide anymore. I went through the motions, packing her things, handing over the keys, and finally filing for divorce. It was a slow, deliberate process. I wanted to make it clear that this wasn't just about ending a relationship. It was about reclaiming my dignity, my self-respect. I handed her the divorce papers in person, watching her face crumple when she realized I wasn't going to back down or be manipulated again. "Here," I said quietly, sliding the papers across the table. "It's over. You lost everything, Sarah: your trust, your relationship, the chance to fix this." She looked at me with pleading eyes, tears streaming down her face. Her voice was shaky. "Please don't do this. I made a mistake, I swear. I love you. I'll do anything to make it right." I shook my head, feeling a cold resolve settle in. "You had your chance. I've seen everything. You lied, you cheated, you betrayed me. I don't want to hear your apologies. The only thing I want is for you to leave and never come back." She nodded slowly, her shoulders slumping. "Fine," she whispered, "but I hope you realize how much you're throwing away." I didn't respond. I just watched her gather her things and walk out the door, her figure shrinking into the distant street. When she finally disappeared from sight, a heavy weight lifted off my chest. I stood there for a moment in silence, feeling the cold air brush against my skin. It was done. I'd taken control and I was finally free. I took one last look around the house. Every piece of furniture, every photograph, every memory now felt distant and cold. It was a chapter closed, one I was glad to put behind me. I knew there would be scars, some lingering anger, but I also knew I survived. I'd faced the betrayal head-on and come out the other side. That evening, I sat on my porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was a small, peaceful moment, an ending and a beginning. The pain would fade with time and I'd rebuild. Not just my house, but my life, my trust, and my sense of self. Looking back, I realized that sometimes the only way to move forward is to confront everything head-on, no matter how ugly or painful it gets. The betrayal was a blow, but it also forced me to see what I truly needed: respect, honesty, boundaries, and most of all, the courage to walk away when someone crosses those lines. So to anyone going through something similar, here's my advice: don't stay stuck in the hurt. Face the truth, even if it stings. Take control of your life and never settle for less than honesty and respect. Because at the end of the day, your peace is worth more than any lie or betrayal.